Today, the United States is divided in such a way that for most of America, we're seeing the events of the country in two different ways. Like we're wearing two pairs of glasses. I'm Brandon Fertig, and this is The Periphery. On August 11th and 12th of this year, we had the latest in a series of protests, clashes really, between a conservative and a liberal faction of people in the United States. Now this weekend, though, this was different. Previous ones had been violent, but this one was more so. In fact, this one was deadly. And it featured a group on the conservative side that wasn't just conservative or right-wing. They were openly white nationalists, white supremacists. And so the left side, who came to counter-protest, came at them with more ferocity. But as polarized as these two sides were, has been the reaction. Just the latest example of how ideologically polarized the United States is right now. So I'm going to look at these two reactions, break them down, talk about how we got to this point, and finally use the knowledge of how we got to this point and an explanation of where exactly we are right now to advocate for how we can move forward. After the events of Charlottesville, and even during them, we had two main reactions. Reaction number one recognized that on one side, these weren't just conservatives or members of the alt-right. These were guys who were known white nationalists, even white supremacists. So these were some pretty radical people, to say the least. And this was obviously picked up and reacted to all over. That on one side of this event in Charlottesville, we had Nazis. When you say Nazi, it's not just about a former political party that was murderous, because there have been many murderous former political parties in the world. When you say Nazi, it's basically a stand-in term for evil. If someone's a Nazi, they're bad. They're evil. We had the embodiment of evil. And on the other side, well, who cares? They were anti-Nazi, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. If you have the embodiment of evil on one side, then does it really matter who's on the other side? Does it really matter if the people on the other side are brandishing weapons they're not supposed to have, whether they're macing people illegally, whether they're trespassing, if they're blocking traffic? Does it matter if they even destroy some property? When Batman was going through traffic, he would break the side mirrors off of cars on his way to defeat the Joker. No one bothers to stop him or dislike him because he just vandalized someone's car. He's fighting a clear evil. And that's how the reaction number one sees what happened in Charlottesville. That's how they see the counter-protesters. It doesn't matter that some of them acted out of line. That's irrelevant, because the level of wrong that side committed pales completely in comparison to the fact that they're fighting Nazis. So when you have this perspective, this is what makes Trump's remarks about what happened that weekend so alarming, so astonishing.
But we're closely following the terrible events unfolding in Charlottesville, Virginia. We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides. On many sides.
We begin tonight with President Trump in the lobby of Trump Tower, spending 15 minutes late today defending his response to Charlottesville.
3 days after white supremacists marched in the streets, the president is now back to square one, again blaming all sides. The president now labeling the counter-protesters the alt-left and saying they deserve blame too.
Let me ask you this. What about the fact they came charging with clubs in their hands, swinging clubs? Do they have any problem? I think they do. Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides.
For someone, let alone the President of the United States, to come out and suggest that the people who were fighting the Nazis, you know, have some skin in this game, have some culpability, are partially responsible for the the chaos that's happened is just beyond the pale, and many reacted with just.
Tonight, there doesn't seem to be much that is good about this evening, because a few hours ago, the President of the United States revealed so clearly who and what he really is. He revealed about whether he can ever be a president for all people or just for white ones.
Folks, what I just saw gave me the wrong kind of chills. Honestly, I'm a bit shaken from what I just heard, and suspect it's not just me. Moments ago at Trump Tower, the President of the United States painted white nationalists and members of the alt-right as victims. But when was the last time you saw a president of the United States defend the cause of white nationalists?
I even thought, hey, maybe we won't talk about Donald Trump much tonight. And then he opened his mouth and all manner of stupid came out. And it ended with our president making an angry and passionate defense of white supremacists. The president is completely unhinged. The wheels are off the wagon and hurtling towards the moon right now.
President Trump, instead of condemning the white supremacists, just went out and said, I condemn all violence from everybody.
Both sides. All sides, yeah.
And I thought that was horrible.
I think for normal people, you got a lot of people at home going through Kleenex right now. You got a lot of people at home who are keeping their kids away from TV tonight.
Now, the reason why they couldn't believe what Trump said, in my mind, is because they couldn't conceive that there would be another interpretation of what happened that weekend. And indeed, there is. And this is reaction number 2. Now, this side sees what happened in Charlottesville, recognizing the extreme element on the right. But they also didn't see him as all Nazis, all bad, all evil. The other difference has to do with the other side. The second reaction recognizes those who fought the Nazis as not being just simply heroes, as fighters of evil. They recognize them for the violence that they've been causing for several months. During Trump's campaign, these groups came out and would assault, would bloody people just for attending a Trump rally.
Oh shit, he's bleeding. Yo, yo, yo!
And also for who they are even at this rally. They don't carry the swastika, but they openly carried at Charlottesville and have openly carried the hammer and sickle, which of course is the symbol for communism, a deadly, bloody symbol, a symbol of humanity stretching out to its worst potential. So while the swastika was flown on one side, the hammer and sickle was flown on the other. Nazis versus communists. And who do you root for in that battle?
You had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent. And nobody wants to say that.
Now, as I said before, the reaction to this weekend and the weekend itself is indicative of where the United States is today. And this is about the social polarization of ideologies in the U.S. The exclusivity and the radicalization disallows, blocks any ability to empathize with the other side. So the inability to empathize with reaction number 2 caused reaction number 1 to react to Trump as if what he said was...
I thought that was horrible.
Not only are there medias for different ideologies in the United States, different celebrities, different businesses. The social media is an interesting point where, because of stances that have been made and actions that have been taken on, say, Twitter, the conservatives who were banned and those who empathize with them, so it's a more expressive, radical group of conservative voices, and those who empathize with them have created their own. And so we have a branch off of Twitter on a website called Gab. Reddit is a web aggregator. It'll bring together all the stories that are popular and voted up and commented on from all over the internet. It's a wonderful tool. But because of actions that they took to squash some communities on their platform that were controversial, and then some blatant advocacy efforts on their part of the administrators of Reddit, there have been an exodus of people who won't stand for that. And they started their own similar website called Vote, VOAT.co. Ideology simply has become a regular part of our lives in areas that we never thought it would be before. Andrew Zimmern is a food celebrity. Went on his Twitter profile recently. It was food, 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 as one would expect, and then boom, anti-Trump. And it's like, well, where did that come from? But, you know, that's him. That's part of who he is. If he was on TV for a half hour once a week, that side wouldn't come out. But on Twitter, where his thoughts are, and the temptation to express yourself is constantly there, politics is going to come up more frequently. And it has with him as it has with countless celebrities. This regularity of ideology has caused us to separate. And the fact that we live a lot of our lives online has allowed us and enabled us to separate into our own communities. We begin to wear glasses that define our viewpoint of the world. Which pair of glasses do you wear? And depending on that will determine your friends, your websites, your media, everything. It becomes an identity like race or religion. And just like there's racism and bigotry against other religions, there's also what I call ideologism, which is the immediate dislike for those and an inability to empathize with those who aren't within your ideology. There's no way I'm going to see around them and recognize what others might be seeing through theirs. It's a new realm of tribalism, ideologism. But I do have a solution. I do have some ideas. And one is we need to relearn the benefit of inter-ideological cooperation. One side has a viewpoint of the world from over here, and the other side has a viewpoint of the world from over there. Well, guess what? They both have different angles on the same object, and both can see, we get a better picture of what this object is. And when that object is a social ill, we can best solve that social ill with these two large major perspectives viewing it. The other solution is, while we acknowledge the existence of both sides, I would suggest let's get LASIK. Let's get LASIK surgery, meaning let's take off our glasses and be able to see the world free of a tint from the lenses. We can't escape the lenses that are put in front of our face. It comes at the expense of unity. It causes conflict. We want to tint the viewpoints of other people so they have the same tint that we do. It makes us want to control other people. It limits our exposure to the other perspectives. We don't want to give it a chance, because to admit that that other perspective has merit, we have to then acknowledge that ours isn't foolproof. And that's like, you know, that pulls the rug out from underneath us, and we don't like that, you know, when we're attached, when we're standing firm into that. But we miss out on other people's perspectives. We miss out on having relationships with other people. It comes at the expense of truth and understanding the world, because we see it only the way we want to see it. If truth is right here, you know, and ideology is here or here, there's a lot of overlap. But there's also a little bit of, you know, that doesn't overlap. And that's where you get things like science denial, which, by the way, happens on both the left and the right. We have to decide how we're going to navigate this world in a world with high-speed internet and a country that's being very reactive to disconnect from our ideology. Not that we will, you know, remove it altogether, but at least take off the glasses so that we can proceed with it not being, you know, the definer or such an influence over our lives.